Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica, Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 72 of Adeptus Podcastus. That number is getting bigger and bigger and it's getting a little bit silly. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our special guest is someone from, as you might sort of know, the TTS crew from If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device. Ladies, gentlemen, Xenos of all ages and everything in between, I give you Nostalgia.
Hi. I'm here. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here.
You're here because
kidding.
Rem invited you. So yeah, just in case people are not familiar with everyone who's who in the TTS crew, do you want to just let the audience know of anyone they might know if they watch it, or just something else you've done on your own?
Primarily I voice Frailstern and Boy, which more people will know me from Boys, considering Frailstern's only showed up like once so far. I also do general script editing, and I do the artwork for all of the flashback segments with the little popsicle sticks. So that's me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I thought I could hear Boy, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't want to assume.
Yeah.
But yes, so there you go. So in the news this week, not a lot actually. It's been a bit quiet. Then again, I suppose we came off the high, if you want to call it that, of the festival that Remleiz refuses to talk about anymore because he's got PTSD about it. So
3 bloody episodes.
Yeah, I know.
We don't need to talk about it anymore. We've done it for free.
Let's be fair, it was only two. It was 2 of ours, and you then had Warp Time Radio right in the middle, which didn't help.
Yes.
So yeah, in the aftermath of all of that, the main 2 events and bits of news that you might know are the UK Games Expo, which sadly I personally was not able to attend. I don't know if you were able to go around.
Nope.
And then we had the Black Library Live sort of reveal seminar thing as well, and oh boy, there's a lot to dive into there.
Oh yes. Firstly, in regards to the Black Library Live thing, I want to give a personal thanks to @VoiceOfKosh on Twitter for picking me up a few books from there, as well as a pen. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. But yes, we have a lot from that. Like, for example, Brian Bless is getting a model.
What?
Yep.
Yes, so Gotrek, as you may know, Gotrek Gurnisson returned to the Age of Sigmar with the Realmslayer novel, or audio drama, voiced by none other than Brian Blessed. And now there is a second audio drama named, I think it is Realmslayer...
Blood of the Old World.
Blood of the Old World, thank you. And there is also going to be a novel by the name of Ghoulslayer, which is a fascinating novel, because I think it's Gotrek goes to get Felix off Nagash, is my rough idea of how I think that book's going to go. And they've accompanied it with a brand new model for Gotrek Gurnisson, which looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. Wow.
As it's interesting because Gotrek is a Slayer. He was a Slayer back in the fantasy days. For those who don't know what the Slayers were, they were sort of disgraced dwarves that then went on a killing spree to get themselves killed. So Gotrek is a Slayer. But in AOS, there's no such thing as the Slayers. There's just the Fire Slayers, which are the followers of the of the god Grimnir, who's now dead, died to a giant salamander. Don't ask. But they've sort of integrated both sets of designs. So he's got like the old school dwarven trousers and belt, and the ginormous mohawk that characterized the Slayers. But the axe is very Fire Slayery and all of that stuff. So I think it's a really awesome model. A great. Honestly, I think we should just get Grand Brindal back into miniature form just to try and compete with that, and maybe Bugman to complete the triumvirate. Essentially,
Gotrek was a Slayer who was so shit at his job that not even the end of the world could kill him. I think that's fair in saying.
Yeah. That's about right. And his job now is, if I haven't actually had a chance to listen to Realmslayer, although that is getting a script release, so if you're not an audio drama person, you can actually read it. One of his things is he wants to find Felix, because Felix Jaeger, who is an Imperial something writer from the Empire,
I think he was, wasn't he?
Something like that.
Let's call him a bard. Fuck it.
Let's go with that. He sort of drunkenly swore that he would detail Gotrek's death, but they kept not dying. And now the world ended, and so I'm assuming Gotrek is going to go and find the god of the dead himself, Nagash, to try and get Felix's soul back. Because someone's got to write it all down.
Yes, indeed. There's a few more Age of Sigmar novels, but fuck that for the time being. Let's get on to the really interesting stuff. I mean, this is a 40k podcast overall. Let's start with the 40k stuff, and then we can...
Yes, seethes silently in Elf, but okay, carry on. Yes, there is a lot in 40k, to be fair, that we need to dive into. Some potentially huge revelations coming our way in both the old and the new era.
Yes, so firstly, we got a novel dedicated to Belisarius Cawl called The Great Work, and...
It's about a year late.
Yep. But he's travelling to Sotha, which is the homeworld of the Scythes of the Emperor, not the Emperor's Scythes, that's a different chapter. It's confusing, I know. But he's going back to Sotha for reasons that will, quote, have big ramifications for the lore of Warhammer 40,000. Is he going to reactivate the Pharos beacon? Probably.
Yeah, we should explain, just in case you're not familiar with the Horus Heresy. Sotha, before it was the homeworld of the Scythes of the Emperor, was the location of the Pharos beacon. The big flashy light that allowed Imperium Secundus to work and also drew the Tyranids in when it blew up. So Sotha is quite an important world to the old Imperium. It's now dead because the Tyranids ate it, as I recall. I think Sotha fell.
It did, yeah.
If I recall. It did. I think it fell to Leviathan, from my memory. Or was it Kraken?
I think it was Kraken.
No, it might have been Kraken. Yeah, I think it was Kraken.
Yeah, because it was after Behemoth, so I think it was Kraken, yeah.
I think that's right, yeah. So what he's going to find there, we don't know, because we don't know what the Tyranids left behind. But it's called The Great Work, as you said, and if GW themselves are piping up the ramifications of what this will do, good luck, Guy Haley. Good luck, sir.
I just hope it'd be better than the last few books Guy Haley's written, though.
I mean, the last of his I read was Devastation of Baal, which is getting a sequel. There's a new Dante novel coming as part of the reveals as well. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I know, the books that came out after that, with Titan Death, Korax, Kurz, they've not been that good. What do you think, Nost?
I suppose.
Well, I mean, I haven't read any of them, so I can't really weigh in on that. But I mean, here's hoping.
Yeah, I think some people just have a knack for writing certain people. So David Geimer, the author of the Gotrek novels, of the Hamilcar novels, and of the upcoming Idoneth novel, I'll get to that, trust me. He wrote...
Ferris Mouse Eating Sand.
Yes, he wrote that. So I've not always liked some of David Geimer's work, but at the same time, he's very, very good at writing Sigmar. So maybe Haley's wheelhouse is not Space Marines. Maybe that's just not his thing.
Or maybe it's, not Space Marines that aren't Blood Angels.
Yes, admittedly, the Devastation of Baal was absolutely brilliant. But it's not just Dante that's getting a sequel. Mephiston is getting a third one in his trilogy by Darius Hinks as well, which should be interesting. I still haven't had a chance to read the two Mephiston novels, but I know there was a lot going on in them.
Yeah, like him turning into like a giant bat monster thing, apparently. Just leave it as that.
That sounds like Mephiston. Yeah, that sounds like Mephiston. But staying with the modern era, one of the more memeable Space Marines is growing up a bit. Kato/Kato Sicarius, I don't really care how you pronounce it, is getting a novel by Nick Kime, Knights of Macragge, which details the time where he got lost in the warp for a bit, in between the Gathering Storm and the modern era and the Plague Wars, because he got lost for a bit and then turned up at Gilliman's side again, and no one really knows what happened. Now we're going to find out.
I'll tell you one thing that did happen. He grew a huge mustache.
Yeah, he didn't have that in the single bit of art that I've seen of him before.
Neither did his miniature, because he had got a miniature in 5th edition, and the unhelmeted version of that was, that
was this back when he had
shaded.
lightning claws?
No, he still had the Talisarian Tempest Blade.
Right.
It was a really closed model, so he had like the pistol down at his side. I remember because Heavy Metal did a showcase of how to paint it in White Dwarf, and it was a huge, long painting tutorial. It was like 10 pages long, and they did like a big big deal of non-metallic metal for the back banner. Don't ask me how I remember that from a random White Dwarf in 2008. I just do. I have a weird memory for certain things that just happened from time to time, and I don't know why that one stuck with me.
I mean, in fairness, I had a weird memory. Like, I just randomly remember, it's like, hey, I remember there was a book where the World Eaters were forcing their slaves to have sex to breed stronger slaves. I couldn't remember the book until someone pointed out it was Lucius. I was like, oh, okay, thank you.
Of course, the Slaanesh-based novel would decide to lewd up the Khornates. Of course it...
Yeah. I mean, what else are you going to do with Slaanesh?
Have you seen what they did to the new Slaanesh models?
Yes, I have, and it's the best.
Yeah, I hate Slaanesh, generally, like, lore-wise and generally miniature-wise. I have a very anti-Slaanesh vibe, as I'm sure most people know. But those models are ridiculous.
I won that harp player.
I want all of them. It's so good, and it's exciting to see, like, what they're adding to all of these models. A lot of, bringing back a lot of musical instruments and things like that, and
yeah,
it's nice because it speaks that maybe they're actually taking Slaanesh a little more seriously and going to do a little more with Slaanesh, which has been kind of lacking.
It's interesting because they sort of have gone in multiple directions with Slaanesh, because you got the Noise Marine very recently, which is very much old school sex, drugs, rock and roll style of Slaanesh.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Combine Harvester Chariot, which are that sort of very sort of physical, torturous excess. And then you've got the Enrapturess, the harp player, and the contorted epitome terrain character piece, and then the Keeper of Secrets itself, which is both terrifying and alluring and androgynous and monstrous all at the same time. I think Slaanesh has had one of the best treatments of its model range. They just need to finish the range off, because they haven't done any mortal cultists of Slaanesh.
Yeah.
Whereas Tzeentch has the Kyric Acolytes, Nurgle has the Poxwalkers on one side and the Blight Kings on the other, and Khorne's got the Blood Reavers and all of the stuff in the core Bloodbound. Slaanesh hasn't got that. It's just got some ancient, terrible cavalry that they need to fix. So hopefully they finish that off without... And I think they've got to be careful, because the demons they can do a lot more safe stuff with. Like, they can play up different aspects of Slaanesh a bit more safely with demons.
Yeah.
Like mortals, it might be a bit trickier. I don't know. I'm not a miniature designer. I'm not that good at that sort of thing.
I think there's still things that you can do with mortals that isn't like... If you don't want to go with the sex aspects, you can play up the artistry, you can play up the perfection, you can establish elements of dual genders without just, straight up having a boob out. So there's a lot you can do with Slaanesh if you just, take more than 5 minutes and actually think about its concept.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you play in any of the game systems? Do you have an army?
I don't. I have an entire tower of models that somebody bought for us like 4 years ago that I still haven't gotten around to painting. So yeah, I'm more into the, I guess, aesthetic aspect, the model building and things like that.
I mean, if you want to get them painted in a hurry, I mean, we've got the most recent release that we can talk about. I'll step away from Black Library for 2 seconds and mention the fact that Warhammer's new paints, the Citadel Contrast paints, are out, I believe, on pre-order this week to come out probably next week.
Ooh.
Yes, the
I
paint.
still have to figure out where I can actually get that nearby.
The paints that broke Duncan. One thick coat?
Apparently they are a little bit more precise than just slap on one thick coat. From what people... I've seen some people today who've been working with them, because they were doing previews in stores of Contrast, and some of the results that you can get out of them is absolutely amazing. I think it's just going to take a bit of getting used to, as just spray and wash is your entire army. Will be pretty awesome to do, but for the right project, I think it could be awesome.
Yeah. So,
Really make my terrain.
I'm just kind of surprised that we ended up having a conversation about Catus Sicarius' mustache and went on to tangent about Slaanesh.
That's your fault.
Yeah.
So, moving back on to the books, there's a novel coming out called Rites of Passage, which I can talk English for once. Fuck. Let me start again. There's a novel coming out called Rites of Passage, which focuses on navigators, which would be...
And not Sorry.
So expect a lot of political intrigue and backstabbing and stuff like that, which should be interesting because I think this is the first time that Navigators are getting a standalone novel in general.
Yeah, the Navigator houses, like, Navigators have been important characters. I know in the Ahriman series, I think, no, that was a woman that got fused with the ship, not a Navigator. Like, Navigators sort of make cameos quite a lot in novels, just doing their job on a ship. But we haven't really seen them away from the ships, just being human. And this is something in 40k that I love to explore, is the politics and the backstories and all the civilian stuff, because we see enough punchy, stabby stuff every time we read something. It's nice to step away from that, I think, from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have a chance to see how everything functions or doesn't function.
Yep, absolutely. Can we please have that How Civilian Law book now, please?
Nope, never. Not happening.
Speaking of navigators, though, fun fact, the novel Farseer has a navigator called Simon. Just a very normal-sounding name in 40k. Hi, I'm Simon the Navigator.
It's not misspelled or anything.
No,
it's not got some kind of
no
P.S. Wyman.
No. Just your typical spelling of Simon.
He sounds like a nice guy.
Simon Belisarius. That's where the weird bit comes in, but still.
Oh, House Belisarius is from the Space Wolf.
It is, yes.
God.
Hey, I know things.
God, but the cover art is so nice, though. It's nice to see, like, as somebody who's had to design, like, civilians for 40k things, there's not a lot of really good references as to what anybody that's not a Space Marine typically wears. So having this nice variety of costuming in this one image is just, it's so good.
Yeah, and as someone who uses art, generally tries to use fan art and credit artists for lore videos, trying to find artwork of civilian organizations is
I
God,
know.
yeah.
like navigators, astropaths, any psyker that isn't exploding.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a nightmare. Actually, before you got here, Rem and I were talking in sort of like a pre-show chat. Could you just ping in the Neferata cover? Because Rem and I were arguing about this.
Ooh, that looks good too.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Rem hated it.
Really?
I think it just looks incredibly flat.
Yeah, I think it's... I think it might be the issue of... I know in the head region with her headdress, the black that they use there kind of blends in a little bit too much with the grays of the hallway behind, and that little bit of white that you get directly behind her doesn't really make it pop out. It kind of blends too much with her skin tone. So yeah.
It's like her crown has almost turned in... It's almost like the crown has made the art.
Yeah, it's like I can get the effect that they were going for with comparing the headpiece to the arches, but with the similar tones of black and gray, it just kind of blends too much. And then you have the severe contrast of the purple and pink skirt, which it on its own it would look pretty great, but again, it just stands out really harshly compared to everything else around it.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just we were talking about it, like I was arguing. Ren was like, it just thought it just looked flat, and admittedly, some of the other covers that we've got as part of this series of releases are insane.
Yeah.
One in particular, there's two in particular on the 40k side for the Siege of Terror and for the 30k novel, which we'll get to. And then there's on the AOS side, there's that Ideneth book cover. Oh my. So, Ram, just talk about the other 40k novel for a minute. I just need a minute.
So another 40k novel that was released at the Black Library Live Weekender, which I've managed to get a copy of, so I'm going to start reading that next week, is the sequel to Carrion Throne, Hollow Mountain. And apparently it's an even bigger conspiracy than Carrion Throne, which involved, the Drukhari on Terra itself.
I mean, the Drukhari were on Terra anyway, they were invited.
Inside the Imperial Palace, which they were not invited to. Not
They
to the
were
Imperial
invited.
Palace they weren't.
They were invited to fix the Golden Throne.
Yes, but
weren't
they betrayed him before they could do anything about it, and then the guy literally created an army of grotesques in the Underhive and blew a hole in the wall of the Imperial Palace and walked in with an army of grotesques. And nearly got to the Eternity Gate.
Huh.
There? Was that in
Yes,
Carrion
that
Throne?
was in
or
Carrion Throne, yes. I was also right by a scene where Inquisitor Erasmus Krell sees a big mural of the Emperor and the 20 Primarchs.
Oh, yes. This was when the 2 and 11 references were just sneaking back in.
So, like, none of them looked like the Minister and Sanctioned images of the Primarchs, but why were there 20 of them? Dun dun dun. And also there's going to be a third novel in the Herisian Wars series, which is Divination, and as far as I'm aware, that's an anthology of the short stories that were released in conjunction with the previous two.
Will say, another fabulous piece of cover art on
absolutely.
that one. And that's where the contrast, because that's got the bright red armor as well, and the contrast on that really pops.
You've got good red-blue
Almost like
contrast.
Eldar armor.
I think it's Carapace armor.
I know, but like you combine the sort of the ridges and the sort of designs, and then you've got the big halo thing in the background. It looks like an Eldar aspect warrior.
For some reason, the shoulder cannon honestly made me think Tau first.
I think that's a Psi cannon, which can be shoulder mounted and linked like to their minds or something. If that's the Inquisitor I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Is it
Possibly.
Inquisitor Covenant? Yeah, it is, yeah. And also we're getting an audio drama for Blackstone Fortress, The Beast Inside, which focuses on a hunt for an amble. Woo!
As well as a collection of short stories, I believe, telling stories of the various adventurers.
Which I think is the ones that were...
Because Blackstone Fortress...
the actual short stories were released over the Christmas period, I think.
Possibly, but Blackstone Fortress is also getting a new set of adventurers as well. So if anyone remembers the Combat Arena game that came out, I think it was exclusively in the US and Germany. We got the Rogue Trader with a peg leg, the Primaris Psyker that looked like a G-Stealer
Servitor.
And
Crusader.
There was a Tech Priest and the Crusader. That is now getting released as an Explorers pack as part of Blackstone Fortress, which is getting another expansion, whose name escapes me at this
But
exact
basically,
second.
the Chaos Space Marines who are on board the Blackstone Fortress have managed to activate part of it. Ooh. Even though, according to the novel, it already is active, but hey, never mind, eh?
There's a difference between active and aimed.
True. And also we're getting Novella Series 2, which 4 books have been announced for, which is a Sisters of Battle book, a Stormlords, I think it is, the Space Marine chapter. Is that Stormlords? Lords of the Storm, Stormlords probably is. And 2 AOS books.
Thieves' Paradise by Nick Horth. That's the guy who wrote Callous and Toll, so fabulous little author, that one. And The Measure of Iron looks like it's based on something from Warcry, because that's one of the Iron Golems from the Warcry warbands.
They remind me of the Big Daddies from Bioshock, except with a massive hammer.
Fair, I suppose. But to finish off with the novels on the 40k side, we got the confirmation of the title for the 3rd book in the Siege of Terror series, as well as the cover for the 2nd book, Lost and
There's
Damned.
still a couple more 40k books as well.
Yes, there is, but like we've got to get through this podcast.
Let's jump into the Horus Heresy stuff. So, next up, Lost and the Damned. The cover up with Sanguinius and his boys looking very handsome. Yeah, but no one gives a fuck about the cardsmen. They're meat shields.
Yeah, that is such a fabulous piece of work of Sanguinius.
I'm just happy that Sanguinius has got a hairstyle that isn't the fucking sausage curls.
Yeah. It still looks a little on the funky side just because of how, I guess, lemon yellow it is, but it's not this.
I think that's because his entire body and the entirety of the Blood Angels are glowing literally.
Yeah,
My hair is lemony fresh.
Isn't helping.
Because I'm worth it.
You go a little more gold or platinum than, like, just highlight or yellow. Ugh.
Yeah, I think platinum blonde would have served it better. Yeah.
Yep, and that is by Guy Haley, who we have decided can write Blood Angels, so that should be
We'll give him the
interesting.
benefit of the doubt
And
for
the
this
third
one. And the limited edition of this is going to be exactly the same as Solar War in appearance, except instead of having a compass, it's got the World Eater symbol on it. So that'll be, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've called it The Lost and the Damned and put a loyalist on the cover.
Maybe it's because, hey, the Blood Angels are going to be damned when he dies.
I mean, yeah, but he's not going to die for 5 more books, probably. At least, maybe 3 at most. 3 to 5 books.
I mean, I suppose it depends if, the Fall of Caliban is the last book in the series or not.
Yeah, I feel like he'll probably die in books, at the end of book 6. Book 7 will be the duel with the Emperor, sort of contrasted as well against the siege, the final battle of the siege itself, as the traitors have held and driven back. And then book 8 will sort of be wrapping things up as the new Imperium takes shape. Gilliman arrives, Johnson arrives, and maybe they'll end it as Johnson leaves. I don't know if they'll sneak Fall of Caliban in there or not, because it's not directly related to the Siege
at the same
of Terror,
time,
is what this series
where
is.
else are you going to put a novel about the Fall of Caliban?
On its own.
I know, but what's...
All on its own. Johnson's Primarch novel.
Oh, that's a point, yeah, you could do that, I suppose. Then again, considering the Primarch novel's only less than 200 pages, can you really fit the Fall of Caliban into that short?
You can't fit the whole battle in, but you can fit the duel with Luther in.
I suppose.
Nah, you just have to move at a breakneck pace.
I don't know.
Let's get it all in there. We've got places to go.
I mean, it'll be the first Dark Angels book at anything faster than a snail.
And I'm reading Descent of Angels currently, so I know how bad it can be.
That's why I said it. And the third one is by Gav Thorpe, and
The First Wall, which means it's probably focused on the fists.
Yeah, it could be.
I think it's a nice. I think it's a nice little parallel to the Beast Arises book called The Last Wall. So we got the first wall and the last wall. Hey. No, that was David Annandale.
The Last Wall. Okay, it was just an off chance for a cheeky reference, but no such luck.
I think it was David Annandale. I can't really see from my shelf all the way over here on the outside of the room.
Fair enough.
Yes, and also we got a book pre-Great Crusade / just at the end of the Unification Wars, a novel about Constantine Valdor, which no one saw coming.
It's Constantine Valdor's origin story and the formation of the early Imperium. So anyone who's an Emperor Tin Hat conspiracy theorist, get ready to read that one, because you'll get to see how the Emperor was thinking before the Crusade even started and the Primarchs were made.
And hey, if we're talking about good art, boy, oh boy, look at that.
Oh yeah.
It's yeah.
And it's getting a limited edition available 6 months ahead of general release. So...
Which means that we're going to have a podcast which no one can watch for 6 months because Rem's going to spoil the
I'm
hell
going to
out
spoil
of
the
it.
shit out of it. Just like next episode, I'm going to spoil the shit out of Hollow Mountain. You have been warned.
Of course. Fair enough.
And in other books, we got the new Cal Jericho novel, Sinner's Bounty. Limited edition was available at Black Library Live, and the paper quality is shit. It feels like sandpaper. I don't know if this was a deliberate stylistic choice, but considering it's, Necromunda, and Necromunda's a bit of a shithole, but it feels horrible. It feels like it's worth less than the £40 I spent for it. Run.
Wasn't there a thing with how they misspelled
Yeah, because
his name?
on his model, it's Jericho is spelled with CHO, but on his novel, it's CO. So someone on Twitter, I don't know who it was, but someone said, I like to think these are two distinctly separate characters. Jericho and Jericho. You never know.
It's Jericho.
Jericho. Or maybe you got Jericho the person and Jericho the sort of personality that he presents to the public. Just so he can keep his identity hidden or some nonsense like that, but he can't compete.
It turns out it's Chris Jericho's life after wrestling.
I was trying to find a Chris Jericho reference, and I'm not skilled enough to do it, so fair enough.
Right. I'm sure you want to talk about the Age of Sigmar novels now, don't you?
I'll be brief. As much as Sigmar has sort of taken over my entire hobby. Right, so we're getting a Gloomspite novel. We knew this was coming. lots of Grot Eater Free City, probably. That's going to be fun. Well, terrifying and also fun. And we're getting Court of the Blind King by David Geimer, an Idnet Deepkin novel. Now, those who follow me anywhere know how much I care about elves as a faction. Like, I have now got about 4,000 points of elves, including now about 1,000 points, nearly of Idnet, about 750 points of Idnet Deepkin. They are one of the best miniature ranges I think I've ever seen. Their lore is fascinating and brilliant, and we're getting a novel dedicated to them, and its cover art is amazing, and yeah, wow. I'm buying that book immediately. And it's by David Geimer, who I know writes Sigmar really, really well, from the Hamilcar books, so yeah.
So someone's going to be
really
eating sand and catching las cannons. Is that head disc yet? No? Okay.
After what happened this week, I am inured.
Oh, you're talking about the Ian Watson podcast. That did come out.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
You can blame Remleiz directly, and for those asking in the comments about it and making references of why I try and stop it being talked about, now
I will say this,
understand.
though. If you thought Inquisitor was bad, wait till you read the other two books.
We're not discussing it. We've already had to watch the comments melt once. We broke the TTS cast once. We're not putting them through it
now.
Again. Enough.
I really, really want to now. Even though I wasn't one of the ones that actually read the book, the first one, I will wholeheartedly jump into that second one. I am not missing out.
I mean, there is the scene with the Navigator having sex with a demonette while it's getting shredded with his tail.
Remleiz.
Oh, you're not dissuading me.
That being said, I did suggest to Alpha that they should make part 2 and 3 of Harlequin and Chaos Child, and Alpha wanted Erndil to kill me.
Yeah, I have to wonder how much the character and the actor sort of bled into one another during that recording session, because Zegrum was I somehow I don't know how snarky Zegrum can be about that book, because Magnus was being so snarky.
I mean, a lot of that script was just, it was Alpha, Erndil, Garrett, Thunder, and Fresh who had read through it. So they basically just took notes, and a bunch of their observations about it were worked into the script with specific characters. And I think a lot of the cracking was just Zegrum kind of being introduced to it to the first time. So he was just like, oh my god, what is this? This is the best thing ever.
I mean, boy grew some sass between episode 1 and episode 3. I'll say that.
I'm not sure how much of that was the effect of the book and how much was just him completely being done with Custodes.
Whichever. I mean, he's now got 2 Primarch dads, because Magnus is basically babying him at this point, so no complaints.
I need to do an image of just Boy hanging out with Mini Magnus. Just the two best things in the entire series getting together.
I just got this mental image of Boy dragging him around like a stuffed toy. I know, but it's still
it's only got one eye like me.
I have to ask, because I don't do much voice acting work, and any voice acting work I have done, like for Remleiz or whatever, has generally been put through heavy post-processing. Like, how hard is it to actually keep that voice up? Because Boy talks a lot.
It's really not.
Sometimes.
The only difficult part is that I have a fairly naturally nasal-sounding voice, but I have to sit there and plug one of my nostrils the entire time, and the high-pitched voice is just natural for me, so...
Fair enough.
Though sitting there having to repeat Gussy 7 or 8 times. Put a little more phlegm into it this time. Okay, Gussy. Slur it a little more. It wasn't that bad.
Stop it. Okay.
We were this close on the head desk.
Oh. Oh god, my students are gonna kill me. Oh god. Right, anyway, moving on.
I believe so, yes.
From Black Library? Alright, the other set of stuff going on was the UK Games Expo. Not a huge amount here unless you're into specialist games. So we got to see the Enforcers for Necromunda, who yeah, look exactly like futuristic cops probably would. We got the Wood Elf Blood Bowl team from Athel Loren. We got a new Warcry warband, the ones from the Realm of Shadow, the ones that look like ravens and crows and all that stuff, which look pretty damn cool. And we got
The Blackstone Fortress expansion.
I'm sure we did. Yep, Blackstone, already mentioned that.
In fairness, those new cultists look pretty cool, though.
And I think that was actually everything.
I'd like to see those cultists for Blackstone being used as a Necromunda hive gang, considering that there are rules available for download to use Chaos cults in Necromunda.
Like that Firebrand which is the named character with the big torch.
You can probably count that as a Heavy Flamer or something.
Is a really cool mod. Yeah, Heavy Flamer or a Banner Bearer of some sort, whatever. I think that there are some really cool models in general for Blackstone. It's a lot of investment to actually play the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I managed to get a copy of the game the other day, mainly because I wanted the background book more than anything else, because I'm currently I was writing a script on the Blackstone Fortresses, and I was like, there's like fuck all information about it. Fuck it, I'll buy the game and get the background book. I mean, granted, I want the game anyway, but it's finally gave me an excuse to actually buy it.
Yep, whatever you needed.
What else is there? Oh yeah, Spear of the Emperor is now out for general release.
Yep. We've got some extra rules for the Horus Heresy for an Acastus Knight. We've got Warhammer Day at the end of June, which is a special in-store event, and I think there's also some stuff going on at Warhammer World. We've got the spreading of the war.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry. The Warhammer Alliance is going German, so that's the thing I think with the scouts, or no, not specifically scouts, with schools, getting like schools involved in Warhammer. Bunch of stuff for Contrast, and that's broadly it. Oh, and also there's an AOS Open Day coming a little bit later, or where is it? 20th of July. I'm hoping I'll go to that. I haven't been to a single Open Day or convention ever, because I've just had bad timings with exams and stuff, like Warhammer Festival right in the middle of exams. But I would, if I can, I'm going to try and go to that because, well, you might have noticed I'm super into
couldn't.
No, I never would have guessed.
Yeah, I know it's a 40k podcast. I try and keep it to a minimum, but yeah, sorry.
And also, I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but Liber Chaotica finally got re-release, and so did the Space Wolf 20th Anniversary Edition, which sold out in like 6 hours.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that Liber Chaotica was coming back, but I don't think we really talked about it. I don't know, have you got your hands on the new Liber Chaotica?
I do, yes.
Did you have the old Liber Chaotica?
I do, yes. I had the old...
Different?
I haven't had a chance to probably look all the way through, but from what I can tell, only some of the artwork has been changed.
Alright, okay.
Yeah, because I got the original 4 volumes in paperback. I got the original hardback volume, but the binding was fucked. And I got the new one that has, fully functioning binding.
Good.
In regards to the Space Wolf novel, it's pretty much exactly the same, except it has a foreword and some new pictures in it.
Yeah, because the original one didn't have any pictures at all, as I recall.
No. Interestingly, the foreword was dated October last year. So obviously they were planning this for a while.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of authors who don't write so much, Graham McNeil is actually coming back to write one of those little shorts. I think it's his first thing back in writing long form since... they talked about it in the article, but it's been a long time since Graham McNeil's written long form for Black Library. So he's back to write one of those shorts, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they said it was the last since the Crimson King.
Yeah, that was... I mean, the last thing I remember from Graham McNeil was the Gods of Mars series. But yeah, I think Crimson King was later than that.
Yeah, much later than that. I think Crimson King was the last one, yeah.
I mean, that's what GW says it was, so who are we to argue?
well, I mean,
Well,
considering,
I know it's our job.
considering
Maybe
that,
they're wrong.
considering that on Warhammer TV, when they first put up the trailer for the new Death Guard models, and they said, like, we are the 7th Legion, everyone's like, no, that's the Fists.
Yeah, the Death Guard are the 7 times 2. They're the 14th. Right? They are the 14th, I think. I'm second guessing myself on my legions.
I mean,
now.
unless they rename themselves.
I'm just gonna let you stew.
Yeah, they're the 14th. Yeah, they are.
We
the
don't
14th.
want to be 14 anymore. We want to be 7.
I mean, it's
7's higher up.
Too bad Dawn got there first, which means the Imperial Fists are actually worshippers of Nurgle. Dun dun dun!
And the Night Lords are worshippers of Khorne, which explains their cannibalistic tendencies, eh?
Ha ha ha. That being said, though, I still find it funny that the modern day Imperial Fists aren't Imperial Fists, considering that their gene seed was drawn from everyone else, including the Soul Drinkers, which means a good quarter of the Imperial Fists have a different fucking Primarch.
Yeah, that the whole last war, reform the entire Legion, then have to rebuild an entire chapter business was a little bit messy.
Especially when one chapter isn't even an Imperial Fist successor. They're only in name only.
As it turns out, yes.
But yeah. We need to reference that at some point.
There's so many things that can and should be referenced, but I think they're just...
Like the
they're
next two
kind of-
Ian Watson books.
I'll convince Alpha one day.
Thank you, Nost.
It is my duty on this earth now.
Good job, boy.
Yay!
I was actually watching that podcast, and I was literally just about to go out. I was stood in my room just waiting, just grabbing a bag, and I was listening to the podcast, and it said something, and I was like, I almost, like, if I hadn't been stood up, I would have probably put my head through a table. Just like, how stupid was that? It was just, oh yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about it. But anyway, is there?
Was it your
Actually, there
porridge
wasn't-
of death, was it? Never mind. As you were saying.
Yeah, I can't think there's much particular news we haven't already covered, because as I say, it's been a bit of a quiet period, and Contrast has sort of been grabbing all the headlines, and I still haven't had a chance to use it, and probably won't for the next 3 to 4 months. But we'll get something soon enough, I'm sure. So let's move on. You said you've been reading Descent of Angels. Is there anything else that's been particularly on your mind, book-wise?
I've managed to get through Brothers of the Snake, which is the Iron Snakes novel by Dan Abnett, which is quite an old one now. Pretty good overall. There's some interesting things in there. It also has the sassiest dreadnought ever. Like, literally, like, you got this planetary governor one going like, what the hell is that thing? And the dreadnought goes, well, you're a piece of work yourself, lady. It's like, I love this sassy dreadnought. He's brilliant. He's my favourite dreadnought now. We need a model for him. God bless Autolycus. He is the best. Interesting, there was a bit of an implication in regards to what would happen if a normal person was injected with Space Marine blood. Apparently, it actually extends their lifespan.
I mean, okay. Like,
Because
I
she
can understand-
was given an injection of the Space Marine's blood to protect her from radiation. And apparently she lived far beyond her natural lifespan on this world.
I mean, it depends on what you've got knocking around in Astarte's blood. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's done to their blood, or that is what happens to it during the transformation. But if it does come with a rapid healing factor and all sorts of other things, then I can see it working kind of like that. Although I don't know how much you need to sort of get an Astarte's level lifespan out of it. But
I mean, I can't imagine it lasting for too long, considering those Astarte cells will probably end up dying off at some point and have no way to being replaced.
yeah, you won't live forever off of the back of them.
I don't even think those Astarte cells would last more than, a few months with a normal human bloodstream.
Possibly with the amount of nutrients they'd need to do everything that they're supposed to do. Yeah, quite possibly. Sorry, science talk.
But yeah, that was only the generally weird thing I can think of. apart from the fact that every squad of the Iron Snakes has an apothecary in it, which is somewhat unusual, you have to admit.
It's unusual, but it's not as though that hasn't happened in some squads. I'm sure, I think it's the Deathwing Terminators and the Grey Knight Paladin squads both can have apothecaries in every single one.
Yeah, but this is like a standard tactical squad.
I agree, but also, I think I remember that back in the 30k rules and all that stuff, the apothecaries are a bit more commonplace. So
yeah, I know, but at the same time, considering that...
Oh, it's rare. I'm not saying it ain't rare. It's just...
I just find it weird that you got
some precedent.
9 members of the squad, plus the apothecary forming member number 10, which is just... strikes me as unusual, but again, you can chalk up to the unique chapter belief or whatever.
Absolutely.
Even though they're an Ultramarine successor and therefore should be more stringent in regards to following the Codex. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've then raised you the Silver Skulls, who believe themselves, if they're not actually Ultramarine successors, they believe themselves to be Ultramarine successors, and they have a giant buttload of librarians.
Oh, fun fact. I don't know if I remember if I actually mentioned this, but I did actually message Sarah Corkwell, who wrote the Silver Skulls novel, and basically ask what she thought of the Silver Skull Iron Warrior theory. 1, she had never even heard of that theory. And 2, she originally wrote the Silver Skulls with the intention of them being white scars.
Huh.
Oh. I mean, I can sort of get that with the prognosticators and seers and all that jazz, this sort of Chagorian.
And the skull taking.
And that. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so basically they're white scars, but instead of being Mongolian, they were Eskimos, essentially.
Fair. Just not enough bikes, as it turned out.
Well, you can't really use a bike in the snow, let's be honest. We can use snowmobiles. Ooh,
Or jet bikes.
That's quitter talk.
We need Space Marine snowmobiles now.
Or just more jet bikes.
Yeah, I mean, it should rain Samael's, cupboard, doesn't it, for its STC?
I suppose so, yeah, fair point. You were talking earlier before we got on the air about something that you've been listening to as well?
Yes, I've also been listening to the audio drama Hunger, which is basically flesh terrors against gene stealers. And can I just say, it's absolutely hilarious watching a chaplain using his dad voice on a Death Company dreadnought saying, "Get back in your assault pod or you don't get to do no killing." And the dreadnought's just going, "I will kill today." It's like, no, if you don't get back in your assault pod, mister. Go on. Yeah. But yeah, the Flesh Terrors end up finding Nasir Amit's helmet.
Nasir Amit being their chapter founder, by the way, in case you don't know.
Also, fun fact, he was also the only Flesh Terror chapter master to wear Terminator armor. Because every other Flesh Terror chapter master viewed wearing Terminator armor as being bad luck. Interesting fact. But anyway, so Gabriel Seth puts on Nasir Amit's helmet to try and find out what happened to Nasir Amit, because he just went missing one day. And he sees footage of just the ground's nothing but skulls, the sky is red and filled with blood. He sees Nasir Amit in front of him, just full of rage, and he's screaming like an angry god. And I can't do this justice because I can't remember the exact quote verbatim, but with the language and sound and the musical score being presented, it seems to imply that Nasir Amit fell to chaotic corruption and possibly even ascended to demonhood. Which, if true, would be a huge fucking twist. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that would be a major swerve to have one of the most straight-talking, badass Blood Angels of the 9th Legion just go demon.
Yeah. But remember, the Black Rage hit Nasir Amit harder than most other Blood Angels. Hence reflected in, the Flesh Terrors being so fucking unstable.
Mm-hmm. But the counter-argument to he's gone demon is that this is just the fact that he's on this blood planet, just bringing the Black Rage out to the point that he was just lost to it.
Arguable, yes.
And obviously, I haven't listened to this. I haven't heard the score. I think it is possible that he's gone demon.
I mean, there is an implication if there is not a confirmation. And remember, implication and confirmation are not the same thing, granted, but there is an implication even though it's not confirmation, if that makes sense.
Agreed. The counter argument I would raise is if someone so powerful within the Blood Angels went demon, then I think he'd have shown up by now. Kabanda would have mentioned it when he was fighting on Baal Primus, if nothing else, because Gabriel Seth was there. Like, surely you would taunt the Astartes that you're trying to kill and corrupt.
Possibly.
By saying, we got your chapter master, we can get
Possibly,
you.
But at the same time, Nasty Ahmed having disappeared wasn't even a thing until this audio drama came out, so it could just be a case of retcon.
Of course. I personally would lean to he just lost it, went Black Rage, and then died. But I'm not going to debunk anything about demons or corruption at all, because we know Blood Angels are more susceptible in some ways to Khorne. It's happened before. Not always, but it has happened.
And not to mention, can I just point out, people can ascend to demonhood without actually being worshippers of chaos. This actually happened in one of the Castle and Crow novels. You know, a general of the world's planetary defense forces was fighting demons of Slaanesh, and when she died, she was ascended to a demon prince of Slaanesh, even though she was fighting against them. I know it's kind of weird, but still, there is
serving by indirect.
Yeah, there is a precedent for this. So,
I mean, I made a video about that like 2 years ago. Obviously, this was before the Castellan Crow novel, saying that I didn't think it was possible because obviously you can start acting innocent, but eventually chaos will get you. But if there is now a precedent for it, then okay.
So Nost, you've been reading the Crown of Destruction comic, have you?
Boy, oh boy. Backstory on this thing. For anybody that's not familiar, back in, I guess, 2009, Warhammer Fantasy had a comic series. It was called Crown of Destruction. It was the sequel to, I guess it's called Forge of War. And, oh my god, is it bad. It's, we got this because, last year, Fresh and I we found out there was a comic book store at the mall 10 minutes away, and we were like, hey, whatever, let's go check it out. Wait, Warhammer had comics? What? Whatever, let's go pick this thing up. And we took it home, and it's really, really bad. Which, it's especially funny considering that it's written by, Kieran Gillen, who is much better well known for, he went on to do some runs for Marvel, and he also wrote The Wicked and the Divine, which is like an award-winning graphic novel series.
Oh.
So I'm like, I look at this name and I'm like, wait, I've heard of that guy before. Oh my god, it's this dude. What? This is really bad. How did the same guy do this? This is apparently the only thing that he wrote for Warhammer, aside from, I guess he did a couple of things for White Dwarf back in the, mid-2000s. I don't know. But the artist, boy oh boy, the artist is Dwayne Harris, and his art is primarily taking, are you familiar with the 3D program Poser?
Vaguely.
Well,
no, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Poser it's not very good. The standard models that it has usually don't come out very good. It's not like Blender or something where you can make really nice models, but this artist, I guess, takes something either exactly like Poser or akin to Poser, takes these 3D models, makes his images, and then puts them into Photoshop and throws 50 different filters over them. So these are 3D models with an ink filter over them to give them some sort of pseudo sketched out style, and it looks absolutely horrible. It's so hard to tell what is happening in any given frame of this thing.
Oof.
Yeah.
So it's not just bad writing or bad art, it's both.
It's both. So to go through it briefly, basically there is a wizard who Fresh gave me the name of who he looked like. I don't remember. It's some other necromancer with a wizard hat that has a little skull on top of it and a spine attached to it.
Oh, Heinrich.
Heinrich Himmler, yeah. It looks like Heinrich
wait.
Himmler, but it's not.
Not Himmler, that's the nuts.
It's a
Yeah.
Kemmler.
Himmler. Whoops.
Kemmler. Not Himmler.
Oopsie poopsie. We'll fix that in post. But point being, it's not that guy. It's some other wizard who looks exactly like him, and
I know who you mean.
yeah, he's doing some wacky ritual in the beginning, and there's like reused shots of him stabbing a guy off screen. Then we meet up with some sort of roving band of it doesn't say who they're with, but it's a Greatsword Frolic and his band. I guess they're done. In the previous story, they'd been running away from something, and one of the other guys in this group is particularly mad with Frolic, because literally every line that comes out of this guy's mouth is, "Are you running away again? What are you doing, Frolic? You're running away! Are you running away?" And Frolic's like, "Look, some crazy shit happened in the last in the last deal. I kind of had to. I'm sorry, I didn't want to. I had to. Our commander told me to run. I did what he told me to because I listened to orders. You probably should too, guy." Then the Skaven show up. The Skaven are mad, as the Skaven are wont to be, because somebody stole something from them, and they're looking for it, and they think that the Greatswords have it because their magic runes are leading them in their direction.
They stole our cheese.
Yeah, so the Skaven show up, they kill things, as they are also wont to do. So Frolic's like, okay, look, they're mad about something. I need to go find out what it is. And so Buddy Boy's like, "Oh, are you running away again?" Yeah, no, I'm totally running away. No, I've got a plan, guys. Shut up. You hang out here, wait for the Skaven to finish building all of their machines and stuff. I'll be back in like 15 minutes. Turns out that good old the wizard is doing some experiments on the Skaven with this thing called the Crown of Destruction.
Right.
So, our intrepid heroes find this guy's wizard tower and kick down the door and are like, "Hey, stop what you're doing!" And the wizard's like, "No!" And he uses eye beams to blow a hole in one of our intrepid party members. And due to the fact that this art is just really weird, everybody has kind of weird facial reactions to it.
Is it dull
They're just like,
surprise?
"Oh no!" Let's see. It's hard to tell what reaction the guy is having, because all of the ink filters are kind of making his far off face a mishmash of black and highlight. So he's just kind of got his mouth open and he's reaching out and it's like, "Oh no, Johan, you're I can see your spine. That's not good."
It's sounding like dull
So-
surprise to me.
Yeah, he's got a couple winners where it looks like he's going for one emotion and he's going for something completely different. So our wizard's like, "I'm a genius. I'm amazing and beautiful. I'm the best." And Frolic's like, "No, I'm going to uppercut you." So the wizard's like, "No, uppercut's my one weakness. Suddenly my eye beams don't work anymore, so you were able to uppercut me, I guess."
This
So
sounds like
they,
something from The Simpsons or something.
Yeah,
This is like a Warhammer RPG session that someone just wrote
pretty
down.
much, yeah.
It
Like,
probably was.
the pacing of this thing, it's almost as fast as I'm telling it to you, except with a little more weirdly disjointed dialogue, and also the wizard repeating that he's so great, and also changing his name a couple times, I think. Like, one moment he's named Rudolph Albrecht, and the next I think he's got something, it was something else, I don't remember. Point being, they tie him up, and the wizard's like, "Okay, so there's a problem. The reason that the Skaven bound me is because I do these shielding spells, and I guess something went wrong, turns out some wolves dug up one of the corpses that was a part of his shielding spell. So he's like, okay, if the Skaven have found me, the guy that I was working for before can also find me. Because here's the deal. Years ago, I was just some guy. I was afraid of death. I was also afraid of not being pretty anymore. He's really not pretty to begin with, but, you know. And so I wanted to find out how to, you know, not die. So I shacked up with a vampire lord, the vampire count, and he let me read from the Liber Mortis. He gave me some stuff. He told me how to fix this. What I had to do was go to the Skaven, and you know how they die really quickly, right? Except for their leaders. Hey, they got Warpstone. And they've got something that lets them use the Warpstone in order to keep themselves alive. So I took that, and that was the Crown of Destruction. But when I put it on my random buddy's head, his head kind of exploded. So...
Yes, Warpstone is raw chaos stuff. It's made of the Chaos Moon stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess the wizard didn't know that. He was like, hey, oops, I'm out of friend. Okay, new plan. I'm gonna take the crown. I'm gonna put it on a Skaven. And as he's in the middle of, like, almost exploding, I'm just gonna siphon off all of the energy that it gives off, and hey, functional immortality. Awesome. And now that I've got this, I don't really want to work for the vampire count anymore. I mean, you know, eternal servitude kind of sucks. So, bye. So he runs off, puts up his shield so that nobody can find him, and just hangs out in his tower murdering Skaven forever, I guess. But now that his shields are down, guess who shows up? Mr. Vampire Count. And Mr. Vampire Count is the best character in this whole thing.
Please tell me it's Manfred von Carstein.
Nope. It is... Oh, does he even have a name? I don't know if he has a name.
To be fair, I doubt this guy got the license to use the von Carsteins, because the von Carsteins are way too important.
Yeah. No, it's just some guy with his zombie dragon, and he shows up, and it's like, hey! So, I want my thing back. His dragon rips the leader of the... well, he's not the leader of the Great Swords, he's just some random noble. He just rips him in half. And, I like our hero Frolic's reaction. He just kind of grits his teeth, slits his eyes a little bit, and goes, "Curse you, fiend!" It's like, he just ripped a man in half!
It's like a case of mild annoyance, like, oh, he killed him. Curse you.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you? So, he takes the box with the crown in it, runs off, and the vampire count's like, oh, okay, cool, my other vampire friend with your punched-in looking face, go fight the Skaven, and go fight the humans for a little bit. Have fun. Yeah. So where's my stuff? Oh, it's in the box. Okay, cool. And then he kills the wizard. So now it's Vampire Count versus what's left of the Skaven versus Frolic. He comes up to Frolic and is like, okay, give me the box. And Frolic's like, okay, here's the box. And our good friend, other guy, is once again like, are you running away? How could you give him the box? How dare you? And he's just like, look, guy, shut up. Shut up for like 2 seconds.
I'm having kind of a Monty Python flashback here. It's like, run away!
Except that's the entire book. He's never actually run away. He's constantly got plans, but our friend other guy's like, you're running away again, you coward! How dare you? And he's shut up. I outrank you. Listen to orders, please. So, yeah, so our guy Vampire Count's got the box now. There's a bunch of really badly done pages of fighting. And the most striking thing about these comics is that, like, the cover art's ranges from not bad to really good. Like, the cover of the whole darn book is, you know, wicked-looking Skaven, and everybody's growling and fighting, and it's great. And then you open it up, and it's poser art put through a filter. And
the cover art is probably where the budget went.
Yeah, the opening of chapter 4, especially, like, you see on the left, you've got your cover art, and then the right is a full-page image of this vampire count with... I wish I could find an image of this, but if you, like, Google Crown of Destruction and look at it, look at some of those pictures, you might just find it. There's a full-page image of this vampire count with just lighting coming up from beneath his face. His mouth is always open, but he's just like, oh, it's so bad. It's hard to get it across in words. You have to see it if you have the opportunity. So yeah, we have our little thing. Then the Skaven are like, hey, we want our stuff back. Time to kill.
Oh, God.
So,
I just saw a picture from Destruction. So,
yeah.
It's like...
That one. Oh, that one's so good. Yeah, that's him screaming at our friend, the wizard, who is now dead.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah. And then, so our Skaven techno-wizard guy is like, give us our crown! So he zaps the vampire count with, green magic. And as it turns out, our friend Frolic had actually filled the, case, which did have the crown in it, with, gunpowder. So when our friend the Skaven zapped the vampire count in the box, a big 2-page explosion happens. So, lots of Skaven dead, lots of everything dead, except for the vampire count. He's still alive. So, he wakes up, and he's like, come on, vampire, zombie dragon, we've still got stuff to do. And, it looks like he's supposed to be missing, like, some of his skin, but it honestly just looks like a bit of rock, like, embedded itself into his head.
Oh, God.
So, he sees that his vampire zombie dragon has been reduced to a skeleton, which you would think that wouldn't necessarily stop him, but hey, I guess...
the zombie dragon model these days is just a skeleton.
Yeah, I guess his necromancy didn't quite, reach to the skeleton, so it's dead. It's dead now. And he stands up and screams revenge. Straight up screams revenge. So he's like, okay, you, human, 1v1 me. And Frolic's like, oh, okay, sure. Nearly cuts the dude's arm off, and he's like, he straight up says, a mortal wound, we're one mortal, and then he does something to make Frolic go flying. We don't know what, but the very next shot is just Frolic looking like he got kicked in the solar plexus. So, and this whole time throughout all of these images, the sky has gone from the green of the Skaven fight to very bright yellow, so you can imagine what's coming. So the vampire cat's like, haha, I've got you on the ground and you're running away from me. How funny. I'm going to keep talking. Oh, wait, that yellow that's around me is the sun. Oops. So he explodes into a red mist because he just forgot what the sun was.
Is that even how it worked in fantasy?
Well, it's how it works here, I guess.
Lots of convenience.
So he just forgot about the sun.
So much MacGuffin.
And they're just like, oh, holy crap, you won, how'd you do that? And I want to read this directly from this page. Sir, you won? How? How did you do that? I don't know. Magic of some kind. But all those years ago, it was magic we didn't understand which made brave men run. Today, it was magic I don't understand which gave me victory. Some things are not meant to be understood.
It's the
I love that line
sun.
so much.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, no, you understood enough to know that you should probably put gunpowder in that box to make it explode, because a normal gunpowder explosion would probably not get you that giant nuclear explosion that you rendered. And you knew enough to know
warp lightning does do that sort of shit, but okay.
And I mean, you didn't. Well, I wouldn't say you didn't know enough to not fight this guy head on. You would do it anyway, even if you did know you were gonna die. That's just how this works. But you know the sun. The sun is a thing. It is in the sky. Inform me. Do people generally not really know about the whole? They tend to. Sun can hurt. Is that not really a thing in fantasy?
Not for this guy, at least.
I don't know fantasy's old lore well enough.
Yeah, it's just
to know.
Yeah,
how it
all
used to
all
work.
men like us can do is have faith in Sigmar to deliver us the strength to follow our oaths, and that is enough. And I like that the very last page is our intrepid hero Frolic giving this horrible grin and saying, "I think you'll find the Skaven won't be retreating either," as they go to run down the last of the Skaven, I guess. And that's the last shot there, is just this awful close-up of this man with this horrible grin. And that's Crown of Destruction.
It sounds
It's
dreadful.
Oh, it's bad. It's real bad, but it's one of those things that I feel like you should experience it, just because it's such a weird trip to suddenly go from, like, you know, you get this great cover art and then you get into it and it just looks awful. It's so hard to tell where anybody is at any given time because of all these different filters being applied to the backgrounds and to the characters. And
the more you describe this comic, the more it sounds like it's like the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent of The Room.
kind of, except you can see there's a base level of, I don't want to say competency exactly, but like the plot is straightforward and generally makes sense. But just the way it was put together, the way the dialogue is just kind of assuming you're along for the ride.
Yeah.
The artwork. The artwork's what sells it. Yeah, that's Crown of Destruction. Give it a read sometime if you can. And also, it came with on the first page. It came with a code for an in-game Crown of Destruction for Warhammer Online: Age of Reckoning.
To give you an idea how old this comic actually is.
Yeah. I don't know if you can find that in the resurrected version, but hey, somebody go find out. Oh goodness. So that's story time with Nost.
Speaking of story time, when's the next Christian Humber Reloaded?
Oh good lord, when I get it done. I'm actually the audio is completely done for it. I'm currently working on the artwork for it. So we're getting there.
Fair enough.
See, now you've told a really long story of awful fantasy lore involving Skaven. I almost feel obligated to sort of talk about the book that I've been reading, which is a really well-written Age of Sigmar story with a lot of Skaven. And so, yeah, I almost feel obligated for the sake of my sanity to talk about it now.
Is it the one about the guy who eats bears?
Yes, it is. It is Hamilcar, Champion of the Gods. It's that book with Cetra in it, apparently. So this is the book where the little story did the rounds about Cetra, the former Lord of the Tomb Kings, being referenced as a Lord Celestant of the Stormcast, which is something that I'll admit I've talked about on this podcast. I have since spoken to David Geimer since I read the novel, and he, as much as we couldn't speak in terms of spoilers because that would give the game up, he seemed to imply that that was just a reference and a throwaway one at that. So, unfortunately, it looks like Cetra is still dead. However, the book itself revolves around Hamilcar being involved in a war with a Skaven who is trying to steal the immortality of the Stormcast Eternals. As you don't know, when they die, they disappear in a flash of lightning and go back to the Realm of Heavens to be reforged into new Stormcast. That's how it works and how it's always worked. But this Skaven Warlock Engineer, or Master Warlock, or Art Warlock, whatever their exact title is, it doesn't really say, wishes to harness that, create their own what we call the Anvil of Apotheosis, so that he can live forever. Whenever he dies, he goes back and is regenerated at his lair. And I'll keep it brief. He succeeds. The book ends with Hamilcar killing this Skaven, who then disappears in a flash of green lightning. Hamilcar climbs on the back of this winged sort of hawk, eagle, human hybrid monster thing, which is also one of his allies, and goes to chase it down, and that's where the book ends. But that Skaven, and by the way, I've done a complete disservice to how well written this book is, because it's almost all told in first person. Hamilcar's character is hilarious, and really, really well written throughout. But the Skaven in question is a warlock engineer by the name of Ykrit.
Subtle.
And they're described as the rat, the rat that was. They remember a time before the mortal realms, and they also wield a flame gauntlet. Subtle.
Yeah, that's totally not Ikit Claw, is it?
So this is the other character that I asked David Geimer about, and even if it's not Ikit Claw, he's not sure, because he, in his own head, at least if I interpret his tweet correctly, in his own head, this is Ikit Claw. However, Black Library may not let it be Ikit Claw. But it is implied, and his authors intended to be Ikit Claw, has survived the transition to the mortal realms. He's stolen from Malerion, he's stolen from Nagash, and now he's stolen from Sigmar as well. He's stolen from Teclis, he's stolen from Alariel, all in his wish to live forever. Sort of. That's his thing. In other news, Hamilcar basically uppercuts Sigmar 20 feet across a room. That also happened. And it's just generally fabulous writing and character work throughout, and I cannot wait for the next one.
Sorry, just to reiterate, did you say that he basically Shoryukened Sigmar?
Basically, Hamilcar was taken prisoner after he died because his soul was damaged due to Ykrit's experiments. He wasn't able to be reforged properly, and it was 5 years until he had a body back. He was being kept prisoner by one of the 6 smiths, which are dwarven sort of demigods, aspects of the dwarven forge god Grunny, who operate the Anvil of Apotheosis, and he'd been kept there until he could work out what was wrong with him. However, Sigmar needed him back in the mortal realm so he could go and hunt Ykrit down. So he disguised himself as a dwarf, using magic, and goes to infiltrate and release Hamilcar, who sufficiently uppercuts him 20 feet across the room, and then Sigmar's like, bloody hell, I should have seen that one coming, and then reveals himself, and Hamilcar's like, I shouldn't have done that, sorry. And yeah, that
can you
happens
just
about
imagine
halfway
if
through the book.
Rabute Gilliman did that to the Emperor when he first entered the throne room after his awakening?
Well, I've done a huge disservice to how well this is written, because it's all written, as I said, from Hamilcar's perspective, and Hamilcar is kind of Space Wolfy, but in a good way. Like, he's always joking, and he's always being a bit of a braggart, but it comes across as sort of, it's his character, it is who he is, but it's also sort of putting on a show, because the city that he lives in, the 7 words, the citizenry of that city is like, what are our allegiances? Hamilcar, City, Sigmar, in that order. Like, he's that loved by that city, and he is an absolute badass. So yeah, fabulous read, and as I said, David Geimer's writing Court of the Blind King, and generally writes Sigmar amazingly, so I kind of can't wait. So anyway, fantasy talk over, move on. That was a lot of fantasy talk across the two of us for a 40k podcast, so apologies if you're a 40k purist and don't want to hear about AOS and fantasy, because tough. Right.
Well then.
Okay, at least we got hopefully something interesting out of this particularly crappy comic.
Yeah, I mean, listening to it, I don't know fantasy lore well enough to know if I can comment on how accurate some of that stuff was, but yeah.
No, having Fresh there also looking at it, he was pretty much like, yeah, no, I don't think that's how half that works. Except for the Warpstone. The Warpstone worked perfectly fine.
Good. Right, unless there's anything else, should we dive into some questions?
Sure. Okay, let's bring them up. Not too many this week. Has there been an example of an Imperial Guard regiment claiming the world they fought for? Like something akin to the Space Marines' right of conquest.
I've heard of veterans being awarded a world as sort of congratulations as a retirement plan and that sort of thing. I've never heard of them taking it for themselves because they're not powerful enough.
I've only ever heard of like guardsmen being given a world as a gift. Like, here, you get to run a world. Like, if they found an STC on it.
Yeah, that's sort of as a reward, sort of like they did in Rome, where they would like just give out land to retiring veterans. Sort of idea.
Yeah, I doubt they give each veteran of the guard their own planet, though.
Well,
otherwise, you surely run out of planets.
No one lives long enough to retire.
Well, there was that one guy from 15 Hours, like his grandfather was a retired guardsman.
Okay.
He got to retire on Agri-World.
Almost. No one lives long enough to retire then.
Okay, next question. Did any word bearers stay loyal during the heresy? Yes, Bethus and Eric. He's currently having an adventure with Eldrad Ulthran.
Yeah, there was also Saw Talgron's mentor, who Saw Talgron then killed as part of the Crusader host. I believe he was still loyal. But the word bearers were culled several times by Lorgar and co. So they had quite a low count of loyalists.
Though I still want to know what happened to Eldrad and Bethus and Eric on their adventure to hunt down the Cabal. So in the last we heard of them was an Old Earth.
I mean, that's quite recent in the grand scheme of things. So,
yeah, but still, I'd like to know what happened to Eldrad and Bethusa.
Eldrad is Eldrad is nearly as plot devicey as Yvraine sometimes.
Oh, come on, that's a little unfair. We all know Yvraine is the biggest plot device.
Oh yeah,
I'll literally bring everyone back to life because I'm just that good.
True, but Eldrad has been involved in so many plot devices and contrivances throughout the years. Even if Yvraine has done the single biggest one.
I suppose. Oh, speaking of Yvraine, special thanks to Gav Thorpe for retweeting that poll about should Black Library make Ilian Nasus canon again through Guilliman X Yvraine.
I knew he'd do this. Why did I mention Yvraine? I should have known.
Because Guilliman X Yvraine is canon according to Gav Thorpe.
But do we really need them making babies?
No.
We can bring Ilian Nasus back to the canon. We need this.
But what does it add beyond?
It adds nostalgia. No pun intended.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
I will be the canon voice of Ilian.
He has the voice of Boy throughout the entire series, just with a little Eldar filter.
And you thought Carter Zacharias was annoying.
We explain like, "I Ilian Nasus," kind of thing. I don't know.
What was that?
That was a baby Ilian Nasus. I know it sounded more like Jimmy, Joe Pasquale, but still.
I was going for the kid off of South Park, but yeah, sure, whatever.
Oh God!
I'm the greatest hope for the galaxy.
I'm just not going to say anything before I embarrass myself. Move on.
I mean, it could be worse. It could sound like Hank Hill's, like, "I'm the greatest host for the galaxy, I tell you what." I don't know. Are there any Primaris Marines that have turned to the Ruinous Powers? Now, this one, someone's responded to saying that, according to Shadow Spear, some of them fell and joined the Black Legion thanks to Vorash Soulflayer, but I can't confirm or deny that.
Yeah, I haven't read Shadow Spear either, which is the boxed game. It's not a novel, it's the box game. So I cannot confirm or deny that. If someone has it, can you post sort of an excerpt in the comments or maybe tweet it at us and we can confirm that on the next episode?
Okay. Are the Inquisition aware of the Fallen's existence?
I mean, almost certainly.
Even though whenever the Dark Angels say, "Oh, the Inquisitor knows," not anymore. They don't.
Yeah, but somehow with the amount of Fallen that are out there, I feel like they've probably the information web has to go somewhere. Even if it's just that they know third hand via an agent who was embedded in a civilian world where a Fallen had decided to retire like a hermit and got caught rambling. Like, somehow it's got to get up the chain to someone. Surely. Also, Cypher works openly with the Imperium sometimes. So Greyfax
sometimes. Well, Greyfax might not actually know, because remember she was, stuck in, Trajan's museum for God knows how long.
Wasn't she on the Terran Crusade, though? With Cypher?
She was released, but I don't know if she actually fought alongside Cypher specifically or not.
Was she not? I thought she was with the survivors of Cadia that travelled to Ultramar, that then travelled to Terra.
She was, yeah, but don't forget, she might not have been in the same proximity as the Fallen. She might not have even known that the Fallen were even there, in fairness.
Yeah, it was either the Cypher got her out, or the Harlequins got her out, one of the two, because they were the ones who released Gilliman from Karos' captivity.
Oh, yes, you're right, yeah.
So she might not have run across Cypher and the Fallen, but the odds are low that she didn't.
Admittedly, yeah.
Also, she's like best buds with Celestine, and Celestine will have definitely run across them.
Some people pay money for that kind of thing. Sorry. Which leads to our next question. Can we get a head desk, please?
Wow, that was no. No. That podcast has made me immune to it. It will not happen.
For now.
I give it about an episode before I break that promise, but alright.
Would it make sense for a retired custodian, the Eyes of the Emperor, to travel with someone like Sisters of Science or a small unit of Space Marines, or perhaps some other specialised force? There is one that works with like a group of enforcers in Auric Gods, if that helps.
I don't think they'll have their own like honor guard per se, because they're obviously the Eyes of the Emperor. They're agents, they're infiltrators almost.
I mean, this one in Auric Gods, the enforcers were working for him, along with a psyker. They were working for him. So,
but you can almost have that like co-opted, like an Inquisitor co-opts a planetary force when he needs it.
Do they actually have the authority to co-opt anything like that?
I mean, I don't know if the custodian does.
Because I don't think, a retired custodian can just, flash like, big golden badge saying, "Custodian here, bitch," kind of thing. I don't know.
It depends. I don't know how the Eyes operate, generally. They may have, like, retinues that travel with them, but I think it's easier for them to get around on their own, or in a very, very, very small group of no more than 5. Of like actual proper agents that work with them. So I don't know. I sort of see them in an inquisitorial level in terms of how much authority they've got, because they are a custodian and they can back it up, even if they don't have like a badge to show.
Okay. Any idea on how the Emperor would have united humanity if he didn't go to Molech and start the Primarch project?
With great difficulty. That's all I got.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that.
Like, how can we know that we don't know what the Emperor's plan was in M25 when the Age of Strife happened? Like that, like the Valdor novel will give us some insight into his plans, but good grief, I don't think we're going to go that far back.
Right. Next question. Firstly, before I do this question, how much do you know about Mortal Kombat, Michael?
I have not played it, but I have followed like the most recent 2 or 3 games. Why?
Yeah, which Age of Sigmar realm would Shao Kahn have the least trouble conquering?
Let's see. You've got the one that wants to eat you, the one that will turn you into a statue, the one that will kill you with trees, the one that will illuminate you with knowledge and then kill you with it. You've got the Shadowlands, you've got the Realm of Death, you've got the Perfect Order realm of Sigmar's Iron Boot. You've got... Hang on, have I got through 8? No, I haven't. Which one did I miss? Fire, Beasts, Metal, Light, Life, Heavens, Shadow, Death. Man's too brute force to take Death, because he just can't
modern
kill
Shao Kahn is, considering they fucked up his character, but that's a different route altogether.
Yeah, Olgu, no chance. Haish, maybe. Probably Haish or Akshi, because Akshi is... Or maybe, no, probably Gur, because Gur respects strength above all. So I think Gur would probably... If he was powerful enough, then probably Gur. If not, then maybe Akshi.
on an unrelated note, I really hate how they turned Shao Kahn into a mindless brute, considering that his original law had him not only being incredibly strong, but also incredibly intelligent and cunning and manipulative. He was, a schemer, a plotter, not just me smash me.
I mean, they had a little bit of that in, 9? But then, he kind of stopped being a thing after that one, so...
He's back in 11.
Yeah.
But
with rabbit ears for some reason.
Yeah.
It's... That number 11 was just terrible. But we won't go into that.
In the last time we talked about a science fiction IP you or fantasy IP, you got very, very mad. So yes, we'll not.
Yes. Right. Next question. How would things have been if Malkador was still alive?
Very, very different, I suspect, because Malkador would have probably finished the transition to a civilian imperium. He would have known the Emperor's plans inside out and backwards. Probably you'd have Guilliman as War Master, and Malkador would have taken over as Regent.
I think Dawn would have been a bit upset considering he held the position.
Of what?
War Master.
Was he War Master already? I thought that was Dawn.
I said Dawn.
Sorry.
That's why I said Dawn would be upset.
Sorry. Yeah, I think Dawn... why did Guilliman get, control... Actually, he was the best statesman in the room. Yeah, so probably Malkador and Guilliman, lead the Imperium, and Dawn prosecutes the Scouring, if there is such a thing as the Scouring.
I know Johnson would still be asleep in the rock.
Probably, unless he was,
because that happened immediately after the Siege of Terra, so...
Yeah, he got there, had a fight with Russ, left, and then went missing. So... Possibly, but I think Russ and Dawn lead the Scouring, and Guilliman and Malkador restructure the Imperium to their needs, both on a civilian and a military level.
Fair enough. Do the undivided traitor legions have an equivalent to the 4 great mortal champions? I don't think they do. I can't think of any significant characters from the Undivided Legions.
Yeah, so the Night Lords had Sevatar, but he's gone.
He went long ago.
Yeah, exactly. The Sons of Horus obviously had Abaddon, or Abaddon, or however you like to pronounce it. You've got the Word Bearers who the Word Bearers have Erebus and Corferon. The Iron Warriors had kind of nobody because Verdrover killed them, or they just died.
The Alpha Legion had Alfarius, but considering everyone has called Alfarius.
And is that all 5, or am I missing? Yeah, that's all 5. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't even classify Sevatar as being one of their great equivalent of being a great champion, considering he pretty much fucked off.
He was the 3rd best fighter in the Legiones Astartes.
Yeah, I know, but I think this guy means more in regards to modern day 40k, like how you got Lucius, Typhus, Khan, and Ahriman.
Yeah, fair. I mean, even back then you had Lucius, Typhus, Khan, and Ahriman, so you can take it both ways, I guess. But yeah. Modern day they sort of thrown Chaos Undivided behind Abaddon. So
yeah, I think Abaddon's the only one essentially. All right. Based on Bjorn's monologues from the Curse of the Wolfen novel, could that mean in effect that he is more or less a psychic guardian of the Fang, defending the Space Wolves against constant psychic assault from demons? Now, to clarify, I have read Curse of the Wolfen now, and there are scenes where Bjorn is dreaming, saying he needs to wake up but can't wake up yet because he's too busy fighting demons while he's asleep. Which makes it weird because I was always under the impression that dreadnoughts can't dream. So, I don't know if this is in regards to Bjorn somehow being something akin to a latent psyker or what? I have no idea.
I mean, you go and fight in Prospero and you tell me how non-psychic you're going to walk out of it.
I mean, he did fight, a ghost demon version of Abaddon that kept calling him Bear, and I was like, that's not my name, bitch! Punch. The end. That's basically the end of Prospero Burns in a nutshell, essentially.
Do dreadnoughts dream of Promethean sheep?
No, but salamanders do.
Yeah. I couldn't come up with a good equivalent for electric off the top of my head beyond Promethium.
I wasn't even thinking of the joke, so you're a step ahead of me.
You're so uncultured, Michael.
I know.
Oh dear. Right. Do Primaris Marines hold Cole in any special regard? Yes, they call him Daddy.
Nope.
I'm only mildly exaggerating. They refer to him as Father. As Father Cole.
Father's fine. We don't. No.
Yeah, subtext, Remleiz. Enough.
So you don't like the idea of a Primaris going, Daddy Cole?
No, I don't.
Why does this episode have to go up on my channel?
Well, you see,
All right,
Ian Watson's writing the new Primaris novel, you see, so...
You are so lucky you're on the other side of a scooter. I would do like the Emperor, throw you out the window. Stop it.
You can certainly try. Right. Do you believe that it's possible in the Beast Arises series that the Orc war boss known as the Beast cloned himself 6 times? As opposed to being 6 different orcs. Or 7 different orcs, rather.
I haven't actually had a chance to read them, but the fact that the Beast died and then there were 5 of them, it was a bit weird.
I don't think it's a clone, considering that from what I recall, the 2 beasts that were encountered were different. Like, one was described as being slightly larger than the other, like being a goth version of a beast, and the other one was a death skull.
And weren't they all, like, different sizes?
From what I can recall, they were different sizes, or at the very least the 2 that were mentioned were, but I don't know if that's chalked up to the fact that since orcs generally grow bigger the more they beat the shit out of each other, this one will just beat the shit out of more people.
I guess.
It's unlikely that cloning technology was used, because at that point, how do you ever win? Because you have infinite orcs, and infinite orcs equals no chance of winning because they never destroy any cloning technology. So, I mean...
Not to mention, the orcs don't really need it, considering, like, hey, this one orc just spawned an entire ecosystem.
Yeah, they spore. They have their own method of essentially cloning themselves. So I could see more likely, a couple orcs got together, the smartest orcs got together and were just like, hey, let's all, we are all the beast. And then they just, through the power of belief, they all believe hard enough. And hey, what do you know? There you got 5 more beasts.
Yeah.
A bunch of weird boys shaman themselves into forming the beast. I mean, that was the mythos they were going for with the beast and the prime orcs.
Then everything changed when the Walrus heresy happened.
That just sounds too close to Walrus heresy.
I mean, Vulcan was wearing green armor. It works. It doesn't.
The War Master.
Now I don't want a Walrus heresy.
I mean, they got tusks, so you never know. Green walruses.
Walrus orcs. Oh no.
Walrocks. Anyway. What do Chaos Space Marines do when not fighting or maintaining their equipment? This depends on the warband/legion.
Yeah, there's a huge diversity in Chaos. Like, some will follow their old militaristic traditions and do what normal Space Marines do. Some will train. Some will do prayers and rituals. Others will
get high.
Study. Whatever it happens to be, whatever fits their allegiance, really.
Go roll around in the disease pits for a little while, just normal chaos things.
Feeding the Nurglings.
Yeah.
Having a sass contest with the Nurglings.
Yeah, you gotta play around with them, keep them entertained.
Because they're constantly rolling around, you see, so... How do the Chaos Gods feel about the God of the Greater Good?
Not come up yet. The God of the Greater Good, as it were, has only shown up once in War of Secrets. And in terms of Tau books that have preceded that, in terms of the canon timeline, I don't think there's been one. Like, I don't think Deathwatch Shadowbreaker is set post Great Rift. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. If it is set post Great Rift, there's going to be Deathwatch versus Tau anyway, not Chaos. So it's not come up yet. We don't know.
If a human were to take a Corvessa apart and put it back together, would it become an abominable intelligence?
Corvessa being a drone, by the way, for those who don't know, that's how. I mean, a drone is already an artificial intelligence, so it's an abominable intelligence according to the Imperium already. It just happens to belong to someone who's not the Imperium. So, yes, but it already kind of is, just not built by them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. Has anyone listened to Realm Slayer?
I have not, I'm
Nope.
afraid.
Okay, never mind then. Have any of you had a chance to watch Bumblebee yet?
Not my thing.
Wasn't interested.
I did watch it, however. Out of the Bayformer movies, it was certainly the best one. It was certainly the most competent, so...
Well, I mean, yeah, because it wasn't done by Michael Bay.
Exactly. So, yeah. It was enjoyable. Okay, TTS Vulcan versus Demon Prince Fulgrim, who gives the best hugs?
I mean, one of them will kill you, the other will kill you by accident. So...
Well, leaving off the killing, one's probably going to sneak a bad touch in there, so I would probably go with Vulcan.
Fair enough. If Malkador survived the Horus Heresy, would he have survived all the way to the 41st millennium?
Theoretically, yes, because Malkador is sort of believed to be ancient, like ridiculously ancient, by the time he meets the Emperor, I think.
I'm going to go and say no in this one, because during the Unification Wars, where the Emperor forged the Dionysian and Apollinian spears, Malkador's shown to be a relatively young man there, and in the 31st millennium, he's an old man. I think he would have survived, a few thousand years after the heresy, but I don't think he would have survived all the way to the 41st millennium. Maybe something like the 35th millennium or something, but not all the way to 41st.
It depends, really, I guess, because if he's kind of like the Custodians, where his body clock obviously must in some way be running, like the Custodians' body clock must be running for them to lose their sharpness, as we talked about in the previous episode. It could be that he's unable to die on his own and would need to be killed, but can still age. Because even at M31, he is not exactly feeble. So he's not exactly on his way out, even if he looks like he's on his way out. And they do say sometimes that old man look was for effect. Sort of as an illusion to lure people into thinking he was a lot weaker than he actually was. So I don't know if he would have made it, but I think there's an argument to say he could.
Okay, this one's actually appropriate given what was released the other day. Is Inquisitor Jack Draco still canon?
From what I saw of that little introduction that they gave in the revised version, I would say no. Well, they kind of said, the way they presented it, if you didn't see it, was basically, we've never heard of this guy, we've got no proof that he exists, we've heard
That was from
of
the 2005
Melindy,
edition,
but...
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was from the redone version, where they changed a couple little details about things. Not overly much, though. But, yeah, they were basically like, look, I've never heard of these guys. The squats are dead, so it doesn't matter. Melindy we kind of know about, I think. But, look, I don't know. We should probably disregard all of this. Let's just burn it. So, I would say...
But I would like to add...
Generally, no?
I'd like to add, the Inquisition guidebook that was released in 2007, the one by Dan Abner and Nick Heim, does have an article on him.
And there is also the phrase, everything is canon, but not everything is true. So the events in that story may have never happened, but that doesn't...
But the Inquisitor itself is canon.
Doesn't mean that the book wasn't written. because they also had a chance. I don't remember what year it was, but was it like 2006? They decanonized a book or two, and they had the chance to do it there, and they didn't.
They decanonized Space Marine, yeah.
So if they were going to decanon it, which, to be honest, with some of the law-bending things it does, they had every right to do. They didn't. They instead put a "this is probably not true" disclaimer, as opposed to a "this is a not canon" disclaimer.
Because in Draco's article in the Inquisition book, it mentions how he was a deemed a renegade, posed as rogue trader, traveled with 3 companions, Melindian assassin, Vitali Google, a navigator, and Grim, an abhuman. They mentioned Scott, just mentioned an abhuman. So, the characters are, at the very least from 2007, still canon at that point.
I just don't want that book to be canon.
I do not blame you in the slightest.
And this is where I find out when I've read through Hollow Mountain, they encountered Jack Draco.
Oh, God.
No.
Yes, please.
No.
It could be worse.
I want to say could it,
Don't
but
bait him.
I'm not sure.
Don't.
Could it?
Oh, yes. You have no idea.
And I don't want any idea. Next question.
Or do you? What chapter is more brutal, the Kakarodons or Minotaurs?
Minotaurs.
Nust?
I'm not overly familiar with the Minotaurs, so I'll go with Space Sharks. I don't know. I like Space Sharks.
I think the Space Sharks are possibly more vicious in terms of, like, they will, like, tear you apart. But the Minotaurs are just so uncompromisingly, stoically brutal that I don't know. I think it depends on how you interpret the word brutal. Like, do you want it to mean generally, or are you talking about a specific way that they act? I don't know. For me, it's the Minotaurs, just because what they did to the Lamenters was uncalled for. Actually, it was quite funny. I had a couple of comments on video by the same person. One was talking about, no, you can't destroy any chapters. Not these. These guys are my favourites. Yeah, F the Minotaurs. Kill them for what they did to the Lamenters. I want them decanonized and all that sort of stuff. Mate, double standards. Come on. Come on.
Right. How much time we got for questions? Have we got time for one more?
We are at 1 hour and about 45 minutes. So I think we have a little bit more time if you can find anything.
Okay, yep. If Lorgar was on a different planet, would he be a different person who believes in the Imperial truth?
Very, very possibly. It's that old nature v nurture argument with the Primarchs. It's come up several times.
Yeah. Interestingly, apparently, it's hinted at in Scars that the worlds the Primarchs landed on were deliberately chosen.
Yep, I would absolutely believe that. I could believe that 100%, that Magnus was dropped into a psycho-friendly community, that Lorgar was dropped into a religious community that believed in the old faith of chaos, that Angron was broken immediately because he'd have been too useful, and that certain things, I can believe it, particularly with the traitors, I can absolutely believe it.
Question from Mike.
About right.
Oh, sorry, carry on, Nost.
Oh, no, that was all I wanted to say.
Oh, fair enough. Question from Michael. What's your favourite Age of Sigmar army to play, and what's your favourite from lore?
To play, I haven't got enough experience with my Idneth and my daughters to know for sure. The army I played the most is Stormcast Eternals, and they are diverse to play. Probably the nearest thing to playing a total Warhammer game in Age of Sigmar. Probably my favourite army to play will be my Idoneth. Lore-wise, oh god, it's probably going to end up being the Idoneth again. I just love all the elven lore. Daughters of Cain, the Idoneth Deepkin, these hints of light elves and light demons that are working with Teclis. But outside the elves, I would say probably the Gloomspite Gits. I just find them really interesting, and Squigs are fun, and Grots are fun. And the Spider Fang, I find just nice attention to detail in there. So yeah, to play, probably Stormcaster Idoneth. Lore-wise, elves, if not Gloomspite.
Okay, next question. What environment do orc spores need to develop into orcs? how much air does an orc need before it suffocates?
We don't know.
In regards to the orc spores, I assume any environment that's beneficial to fungus.
I mean, to be fair, the orcs can spring up and survive basically anywhere. I think the way it works with their breeding is that the first generation of spores generally won't grow into orcs first time. I feel like it's the second generation that will grow the next wave of orcs through. So it's less...
It goes fungus, squigs, snots, grots, orcs.
Yeah, I don't think
in that order of development.
Yeah, I don't think they need 5 full generations of breeding to get that far. But it's certainly that you don't get orcs right away, but you'll get them eventually. They'll probably look different. I think there was a book, I forget which one, of orcs.
Oh yeah, wasn't one there like a world that was completely racked with like huge dust storms, whether and the orcs there were like grey or something.
I was thinking like with rust storms and they'd gone red.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. So
I knew it was something like that.
Yeah, orcs can survive basically anywhere in anything. That's their kind of trick. So yeah, it's not a case of what do they need, they'll take anything. But yeah.
Fair enough. And one more question I feel. If Malkador was in the Emperor's position, how do you think he would have handled the Primarchs?
Oh, the comments like Malkador this week, don't they?
He's everyone's favourite old man.
I'm almost wagering that Malkador was advising the Emperor on how to handle the Primarchs. I wouldn't be surprised.
Fair enough. And that'll be it for the questions this week.
Fair enough. So if you have a question for next time, or based on what you said today, or just generally, then let us know in the comments below with the word question at the front so that we can find it more easily when we're going through the comments next time. So is there anything else to add? Any further things to discuss? Any comments? Any random ramblings that have gone to people's minds at all?
Just me being very upset with the Cal Jericho limited edition being printed on sandpaper. Seriously, what the fuck were you thinking, Black Library? If I'm going to drop the money for a limited edition, I expect it to be on some relatively nice paper, because your standard hardbacks are on really nice paper. You know, and your limited editions are too, but this one just, no.
Well, I mean, Cal Jericho seems like kind of a gritty character, doesn't he?
Haha.
So it's on gritty paper. Okay.
Oh dear.
Fair enough. So if that's everything, then I think that will be all for today. So thank you very much to Nostalgia for joining us for this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be on the show.
Not a problem. And I'm sure that there will be an invitation sent out, even if it's just for some massive multi-person schmoz at some point. Because I know how Remleiz' mind works. So,
Honestly, I'm surprised that Fresh didn't gate crash this episode, to be honest.
He's still asleep.
Just when we've worked with people who lived near each other before is when we worked with White and Thunder, and they gate crash every single time.
Yeah, last time Thunder gate crashed White and was waving a sword around.
Yeah.
Was that the episode where White drank the food cone, or was that the one before?
I think that was the one. I think the one with the food colouring is the one before the last time they were together.
That's it, yeah.
As I recall. And
just to reiterate, that was all White's idea. I did not force him. He was basically begging to do it because he's weird.
Just so. Right, well, thank you very much, everyone, for watching this episode of Adeptus Podcastus. We do hope you have enjoyed it, with big, long storytelling segments and random discussions. I realize this has been a very lore-heavy episode, so if you're someone who's mainly in it for the models, we apologize, but we can't talk about everything you like every time. Hopefully there'll be something a bit more model-related next week that we can be banging on about. Other than that, I think we are done here, so thank you very much for watching. This has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And I'm Nost. Hi.
And we will see you all next time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.